I still remember the morning I first noticed something wasn't quite right. I was walking across the kitchen floor to pour my usual cup of black coffee when I suddenly felt a strange numbness crawl into my left hand. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe I slept funny. Maybe it was nothing. But by the time I reached for the mug, my grip felt weak. And when I tried to bend down to pick up the newspaper, my knees screamed back at me. It didn't happen all at once. That's the scary part. It crept in silently, like the draft under a door you didn't realize was open. I started noticing more things. Stiffness in the morning, slower steps, legs that tired more quickly after a walk around the neighborhood in Grand Rapids. What I thought were just signs of aging turned out to be something else entirely. Something that had been building quietly inside my body for years. Collagen loss. No one talks about it. Not at the doctor's office, not on television, not even in those senior wellness pamphlets. But by the time most of us turn 65, we've lost more than a third of the collagen our bodies used to make, and that matters. Because collagen isn't just some beauty buzzword, it's the glue that holds our joints, muscles, and nerves together. When it fades, everything begins to weaken. And here's the thing I wish someone had told me sooner. Tingling hands, stiff knees, weak legs. These aren't just annoying symptoms. They're warnings. They're your body's way of saying, I need help. I had no idea that the daily struggles I was brushing off were red flags, that my internal scaffolding was falling apart. I'll tell you what changed everything for me. I ran into my old friend James at a local community breakfast. He was walking tall, smiling, full of energy, and I couldn't believe the difference. Last time I saw him, he was limping, grimacing with every step. So I asked him straight out, "What happened?" He smiled and leaned in like he was about to share a secret. "It's the food, Mike," he said. "You just have to eat smarter. Collagen doesn't just come from powders and pills. It comes from real food if you know what to look for." That conversation stuck with me. And when I got home, I started digging. I spent weeks reading medical journals, talking to nutritionists, and testing foods myself. And what I discovered truly changed my life and my body. There are everyday vegetables, ones you probably have sitting in your fridge right now, that can actually help restore collagen naturally. Not in a gimmicky way, but by feeding your body what it needs to rebuild from the inside out. In this video, I'm going to walk you through those vegetables, 8 of them, to be exact, each one powerful in its own way. Some help strengthen your knees, others ease the tingling in your hands. And one in particular, I'll tell you when we get there, helped me get back to hiking again. Something I hadn't done in years. So here's my ask. If you've been feeling slower lately, if your hands don't feel as strong, or your legs get tired after just a few steps, stay with me. This might be the message you didn't even know you needed. Because it's not too late. There is something you can do. You can take back your strength, one meal at a time. And it starts today, right here, with something as simple as what's on your plate. The very next morning, I cleared out half my fridge. Gone were the sugary snacks and the frozen meals I'd relied on when I was too tired to cook. I went to the farmer's market near Fulton Street, talked to the vendors, asked about freshness, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was doing something, really doing something for my body, not just reacting to it breaking down. That's when I discovered parsley. Now, I know what you're thinking. Parsley? That little green leaf people use to decorate a plate? But hear me out, because parsley turned out to be a giant in disguise. It's packed with vitamin C, even more than oranges, which blew my mind. And here's the kicker. Your body can't make collagen without enough vitamin C. No matter how much protein or bone broth you consume, if your vitamin C is low, collagen production stalls. I'd spent years trying supplements that promised better joints, not realizing I was missing the most basic building block. There's something else too. Parsley contains apigenin, a compound that helps protect the exact cells that make collagen. Think of it like a bodyguard for your joints. And when I started adding just a handful of parsley into my soups, omelets, or even my morning smoothies, I felt it, not overnight, but gradually. The stiffness in my fingers eased. That subtle buzzing in my hands in the mornings began to fade. I wasn't waking up clenching my fists anymore. Next came asparagus. I used to think asparagus was one of those fancy vegetables you only had at weddings or on restaurant plates. But it turns out, it's like a full-service repair shop for aging bodies. It's rich in glutathione, the antioxidant that your cells crave as you get older. When I looked into the research, I found that seniors with higher levels of glutathione had stronger bones and less tissue degeneration. Not just that, but asparagus is high in vitamin K, which helps direct calcium exactly where it needs to go into your bones, not into your joints where it can cause stiffness and pain. And let's not forget folate. Asparagus is one of the best natural sources, and folate is key for repairing tissues and even helping your body recycle damaged collagen into new, stronger fibers. I started roasting asparagus in olive oil, just a pinch of sea salt and garlic, and eating it with dinner at least twice a week. The way my knees began to feel lighter, the way I stopped groaning every time I stood up from the couch, it didn't feel like coincidence. It felt like something was finally working with my body instead of against it. But maybe the biggest surprise was how simple it all was. No pills, no special powder, no expensive doctor visits. Just small, consistent changes. Just real food. And what's more, it gave me back something I hadn't felt in a while: control. For years, I thought I was just a passenger in this aging body, trying to hold on. But now, every bite felt like a step forward. I still remember calling James a few weeks after I started. "You were right," I said. "It's the food. I feel it. I really feel it." He chuckled and told me to buckle up, because we were only just getting started. "Wait till you try seaweed," he said, "and I'll tell you what, that ocean veggie nearly changed the game." But more on that in a moment. For now, just know this. If you're sitting there wondering whether something as small as adding a little green to your plate can really make a difference, I'm here to tell you it can. I've lived it. It's not about a magic cure. It's about stacking little wins. And sometimes, that starts with something as simple as giving parsley the respect it deserves. A few days later, I found myself standing in the international aisle at Meijer, staring at a package of dried seaweed. I'll be honest, I hesitated. Seaweed wasn't something I grew up with. I was raised on casseroles, not kelp. But James was persistent. "Trust me," he'd said, "this stuff is like rocket fuel for your joints." And he was right again. I started small, just a few flakes sprinkled into a miso soup I picked up from a local spot downtown. It didn't taste bad. In fact, it reminded me of the coast, like a breeze off Lake Michigan after a long summer day. But it wasn't the taste that hooked me. It was what I learned next. Seaweed, as strange as it seemed to me at first, is packed with minerals, iodine, zinc, copper, and manganese, all critical for building and maintaining collagen. I dug into a study published in a medical journal that showed seaweed stimulates fibroblasts, the very cells that rebuild connective tissue. That meant, with every spoonful, I was feeding the parts of my body that were breaking down. My knees, my shoulders, even the stiffness in my fingers, it was all connected to this network of collagen that seaweed helped to patch up. And the benefits didn't stop there. I read about fucoidone, a special compound found in brown seaweed that reduces inflammation and protects aging tissues. In one clinical trial, seniors who took seaweed extract reported better joint mobility and less recovery time after activity. That hit home for me. I'd started walking again, just slow loops around the neighborhood. But I noticed I wasn't as sore the next day. My legs weren't as heavy. It felt hopeful. Then came the beets. I'll never forget the first time I roasted a batch deep red slices, caramelized around the edges, earthy and sweet. I added a bit of balsamic and fresh thyme, and it quickly became a weekly habit. But it wasn't just about flavor. Beets are rich in nitrates, which the body converts into nitric oxide, a compound that opens up blood vessels and improves circulation. For someone like me, who was starting to feel like my legs were made of lead, this was no small thing. I came across a study that said drinking beet juice daily increased blood flow to the legs by over 20% in older adults. That explained why my evening walks were getting easier. My calves didn't burn like they used to, and I didn't have to stop every few blocks to catch my breath. But what really impressed me was how beets helped reduce oxidative stress, the process that breaks down collagen over time. They contain betanin, a powerful antioxidant that essentially puts out the little fires burning away at your tissues. And they're also rich in folate, which helps repair tissue and protects against inflammation. I even started experimenting, adding shredded beets to salads, tossing them into smoothies. Once I got past the idea that vegetables were just a side dish, everything changed. Food became medicine. And the more I leaned into that idea, the more my body responded. I wasn't just getting older, I was getting stronger. You see, this journey wasn't about chasing youth. It was about reclaiming stability, freedom, confidence. The kind of confidence that lets you plan a day trip without worrying about whether your legs will hold up, or wake up without dread that your hands might fail you before you've poured your first cup of coffee. There was a day right around early fall when I realized I'd gone almost a week without feeling that awful tingling in my hands. I had walked more, stood longer, and climbed stairs I used to avoid. And it wasn't magic. It was beets, seaweed, parsley, asparagus, real food, quietly doing real work. It was around that same time I reconnected with Angela, a retired nurse I used to work with back in the day. She came over for coffee one morning, and as we sat on the porch watching the leaves fall, she noticed the way I stood up from my chair, smooth, no grunt, no hesitation. "You've been working out?" she asked with a curious smile. "Working smarter," I replied. "Turns out food is better than any gym I've ever joined." She laughed. And that's when I told her about the quiet powerhouse in my fridge, broccoli. Now, broccoli isn't flashy. It doesn't have the rich color of beets or the exotic flair of seaweed. But what it lacks in excitement, it makes up for in strength. And when I say strength, I mean that literally. Broccoli contains a compound called sulforaphane. I had to practice saying that word for days. But once I understood what it did, I couldn't stop talking about it. Sulforaphane helps activate your body's own repair genes, the ones that tell your system to rebuild and protect cartilage. That's crucial for anyone struggling with achy knees or stiff fingers. A study I found from just a few years ago confirmed it. Seniors who consumed more sulforaphane-rich vegetables had healthier joints and less discomfort during everyday movement. But that's not all. Broccoli also delivers vitamin K, vitamin C, and calcium, an all-star trio for joint integrity and nerve function. When I started adding steamed broccoli to my dinner 3 nights a week, I noticed something subtle but powerful. I stopped fearing the stairs in my house. For years, I'd gone up them one slow step at a time, gripping the railing like a lifeline. But one day, I just walked up. No thought, no pain. I actually laughed at the top, realizing how much I had regained. Then came okra. Now, I'll admit I had my doubts. Okra has a reputation, mostly because of its texture. But once I started looking into its benefits, I knew I had to try it. I sautéed it with tomatoes and garlic, and to my surprise, it was delicious. More importantly, it was effective. Okra is packed with a natural gel-like fiber called mucilage. This stuff works like a cushion inside your joints, easing the grind that happens when cartilage wears thin. It also contains polyphenols and something called rhamnogalacturonone, which helps stimulate collagen production and reduces inflammation. A study I read showed that seniors who consumed okra regularly experienced increased collagen density in their knees and hands. And that explained why, after just a couple weeks of adding okra to my meals, the stiffness I usually felt after a long drive nearly vanished. My hands didn't ache after holding the steering wheel for an hour. That was new, and it felt incredible. Angela was fascinated. She jotted everything down and asked me to email her some of the studies I mentioned. "You should teach this stuff," she said. "People need to hear it from someone who's lived it." That stuck with me. Because she's right. It's one thing to read about nutrients and compounds in a textbook. It's another thing entirely to feel your own body change, your steps lighter, your grip stronger, your mornings brighter. These weren't miracles. They were vegetables. Broccoli, okra. Simple foods doing what pills promised but never quite delivered. I didn't need a supplement aisle. I needed a produce section and a little patience. One Saturday morning, I was out in the backyard pulling weeds when my neighbor Sam leaned over the fence. He's a few years older than me, a Vietnam vet with a dry wit and a limp he earned the hard way. He watched me stand up straight after 30 minutes on my knees and raised an eyebrow. "You switch bodies with your grandson or what?" I laughed and told him the truth. I switched vegetables. He thought I was joking, so I invited him over that evening. I made us both a warm spinach salad wilted lightly with olive oil, topped with roasted walnuts, and a few crumbles of goat cheese. As we sat at the kitchen table, I told him about what I'd been learning and living. Spinach doesn't get the credit it deserves. It's soft, mild, easy to overlook. But inside those deep green leaves are some of the most powerful tools we have for healing the body, especially after 60. Spinach is loaded with vitamin A, which your body turns into beta-carotene. That beta-carotene keeps fibroblasts, your collagen-making cells, awake and active. Without them, your body simply can't repair the wear and tear of daily life. But what really caught my attention was the magnesium. Most older adults don't get nearly enough of it. And magnesium is crucial not just for muscles and nerves, but for activating the enzymes that trigger collagen production in the first place. I read a 2018 study that showed seniors with healthy magnesium levels had stronger connective tissue and were far less likely to suffer from conditions like sciatica or carpal tunnel syndrome. That hit close to home. I used to wake up with my hands half asleep, buzzing like static on an old television. But after a few weeks of adding spinach to my diet raw in smoothies, sautéed with eggs, even tossed into soups, that sensation started to fade. My fingers began to feel like my own again. Spinach also contains nitrates that boost blood flow, which is critical for healing. That's what made the difference in my knees. I no longer felt like I was dragging weights every time I climbed a hill or carried groceries from the car. It was like my muscles finally had enough oxygen to do their job right. Sam listened carefully, nodded slowly, then said, "You know, I haven't touched spinach since my army days." I smiled. "Well, maybe it's time to rewrite that story." He took home a shopping list that night. Spinach was at the top, but the one vegetable that tied it all together, the one that gave everything else a final push, was red bell pepper. Just half a cup of it contains more than 150% of your daily vitamin C needs. That's huge, because vitamin C is the ignition switch for collagen production. Without it, your body just idles, never really repairing what's been damaged. I started slicing raw red bell peppers and adding them to wraps, dips, even munching them like chips. The result? I had more energy, better grip strength, and a noticeable ease in my wrists. My joints weren't just less stiff, they were responsive, fluid, alive. One study showed that seniors who consumed more vitamin C walked faster, had better balance, and felt less overall inflammation. I didn't need a study to know it was true. I felt it every time I got out of bed without groaning. And then something beautiful happened. Sam came by a few weeks later, walking taller, moving easier, and dropped a small basket on my porch. Inside were bell peppers from his garden, bright red, sweet, and full of quiet strength. "You were right," he said. "Turns out food really is medicine." The change didn't happen all at once, but it did happen. One morning, I stepped out onto my front porch with a cup of coffee in hand, looked out over the quiet street, and realized something I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't afraid of my body anymore. I wasn't afraid of the twinge in my knees when I stood up, or the tingling in my fingers when I opened a jar. I didn't worry if today would be the day my legs gave out halfway through the grocery store. Instead, I felt grounded, capable, like the man I used to be, only wiser. The journey started with a handful of herbs and vegetables. Not miracle cures, not the latest buzzwords in some wellness magazine, just food. Real, simple food, given the chance to do what it was always meant to do: rebuild, nourish, support. From parsley to spinach, from beets to bell peppers, I had unknowingly assembled a team of allies, each one playing its role, reducing inflammation, boosting blood flow, reigniting the body's natural repair systems. Collagen wasn't some distant dream anymore. It was a daily practice, a quiet revolution taking place in my own kitchen. And here's what I learned. Aging isn't the enemy. Giving up is. We don't lose strength overnight. We lose it in moments when we say, "I'm too tired to cook," or "This pain is just normal now," or "There's nothing I can do." But there is something. There's always something. Even if it's just swapping out a snack, or adding one more colorful veggie to your plate, or taking a short walk after dinner instead of heading straight to the recliner. I still have bad days. I still wake up stiff sometimes. But I also wake up hopeful. And that hope, that slow, steady confidence in my own body, that's what I want for you too. If you've made it this far with me, I hope you take away more than just a grocery list. I hope you take away belief. Belief that change is possible, that healing is possible, that no matter how old you are, you can still move with strength, with freedom, and with joy. The next time your hand tingles, or your knees ache, or your legs feel like they belong to someone older than you, pause, take a breath, and remember this story. Remember what's possible when we stop waiting for a fix and start feeding ourselves the way we were meant to. And if you need a place to start, look no further than your fridge. That little bunch of parsley? That red bell pepper hiding in the crisper? They're not just food, they're a chance. You've got more control than you think. And you've got company too, folks like me, like Sam, like Angela, folks who aren't chasing youth, but embracing life in full stride. This isn't just about collagen. It's about choosing to stand tall in a world that expects you to sit down. It's about honoring your body for everything it's carried you through, and giving it the tools to carry you just a little further. Thanks for spending this time with me. I hope something in this story stuck with you. And I hope the next time you walk into your kitchen, you do it not out of habit, but with purpose. Because sometimes, the first step to feeling strong again is just making dinner.